The storm had rolled in quickly over the city skyline, casting a gray shadow across the towering buildings of downtown Chicago. Rain pelted against the glass of the skyscrapers, and thunder cracked like a warning shot in the distance. Inside the LexCorp Tower, the city's tallest and most prestigious corporate monument, the elevators groaned under the sudden power fluctuations caused by the storm. Calvin James, a 35-year-old single father, had just finished cleaning the executive floor bathrooms. With a mop in one hand and a bucket in the other, he trudged toward the freight elevator, hoping to get to the basement before his shift ended. His daughter, 10-year-old Ava, was waiting for him at home with her peanut butter and jelly sandwich dinner and her usual request, "Read me a story, Daddy." The building rattled again. The lights flickered, then went dark for a few seconds. When they came back on, an eerie silence followed. A muffled scream echoed through the hallway. Calvin paused. "Hello?" he called out. He set down the mop and bucket, scanning the hallway. The scream came again, clearer this time, followed by a loud banging noise. Calvin rushed toward the source and found himself in front of elevator 3A. The red emergency light above blinked like a warning. He pressed his ear to the door. "Help! Someone's in here." The elevator stopped. Calvin didn't hesitate. He dropped to his knees and pried open the doors with his bare hands, muscles straining. Through the gap, he saw a woman in a business suit, standing on a platform a few feet below floor level. "Can you pull yourself up?" he asked. I think so. Just, don't let go." He extended his arm and braced himself. "I got you. Trust me." With great effort, she grabbed his wrist, and he pulled with everything he had. She scrambled up and collapsed onto the hallway floor, panting. Calvin helped her sit up. "Are you okay, ma'am?" She looked up at him, mascara running from the humidity and fear, but dignity still in her posture. "I think so. Thank you. You saved me. Just doing what anyone would do." She gave him a long look. "No, not everyone would." Before he could respond, security and maintenance came rushing up the hall. Paramedics checked her over. In the chaos, Calvin picked up his mop and bucket and quietly disappeared into the stairwell. The next morning, Calvin was back at work before sunrise. Bills didn't care about heroics. His apartment was small, but it was filled with love, especially from Ava, whose bedtime stories and bear hugs were all he lived for. He never mentioned the elevator incident to anyone. What good would it do? People like him didn't get noticed. But someone had noticed. 3 days later, he was summoned to the executive office. Calvin wiped his hands nervously on his uniform as he stood outside the door marked CEO, Claire Whitmore. The receptionist smiled. "You can go in. She's expecting you." He entered hesitantly. Claire Whitmore stood by the window, looking out at the city. She turned when he came in, her sharp blue eyes softening. She was the woman from the elevator. "Mr. James," she said, extending a hand. "Thank you for coming." "Ma'am, you didn't have to. I'm just glad you're all right. Please, sit." He sat stiffly, unsure of why he was there. "I've thought about that night a lot," she said. "About how vulnerable I felt. I realized something. People like me, we rarely ever feel helpless. That moment humbled me. And you, a man who had no obligation to do anything, risked yourself for a stranger. Anyone would have helped." "No, not everyone would," she repeated. "And you didn't know who I was. You didn't do it for gain. That's rare." She walked over to her desk and picked up a file. "I asked HR about you. I hope you don't mind. Single father. Ava, right? 10 years old. Excellent performance reviews." Calvin cleared his throat, uncomfortable. "I'm just doing what I can for her. You deserve more." She slid the file toward him. Inside were papers. A promotion. Better pay. Benefits. Even an educational fund for Ava. Calvin blinked. "Ma'am, this is too much." "No," she said gently. "It's just enough. The world needs to start rewarding quiet heroism. The kind that doesn't make headlines but changes lives." Calvin looked down at the papers, then up at her. "I don't know what to say." "Then just say you'll keep being the man who pulls people out of dark places. Even if it's just with bedtime stories." Tears welled up in his eyes, and he nodded. Weeks passed. Calvin's life slowly changed. He had weekends off now, enough savings to buy Ava her first new bicycle, and time to attend her school plays. He even enrolled in night classes for HVAC certification. One evening, Ava sat in his lap, flipping through a picture book. "Daddy?" "Yes, baby. You always tell me superheroes wear capes. But I think yours is invisible." He chuckled, voice thick with emotion. "Maybe. But I think I met one too, in an elevator." Months later, Claire invited Calvin and Ava to a company-wide celebration. It was a fundraiser to support working parents and inner-city education. She stood on the stage and told the story of the man who rescued her, a man who never asked for anything but gave everything. When she finished, she called him on stage. The applause that followed was thunderous. Calvin stood awkwardly before the mic, holding Ava's hand. "I didn't rescue anyone," he said, voice trembling. "I just did what my mama taught me, to treat people like they matter. That's all." Ava looked up at him, eyes glowing. Claire stepped beside them and whispered something that made him freeze. "You didn't just save me from that elevator. You reminded me what leadership truly looks like." That night, Calvin tucked Ava in and kissed her forehead. He looked around their modest home and felt something he hadn't in a long time: peace. In a world obsessed with titles and status, one man's quiet courage had made ripples that would never stop growing. Sometimes, the most powerful words are the ones spoken in gratitude. And sometimes, the most extraordinary people are the ones who simply show up, do the right thing, and go home to read their child a story. True heroism doesn't always wear a uniform or stand in the spotlight. Sometimes, it shows up quietly, in the form of a single parent sacrificing everything for their child, or a stranger extending a hand when no one else would. This story reminds us that acts of kindness, no matter how small or unseen, have the power to change lives. And often, the people we overlook are the ones carrying the most strength. Compassion, humility, and doing the right thing, especially when no one's watching, can echo further than we ever imagine.